I left that restaurant without saying a word, left my partner sitting there with her phone still lit up in her hand. And 6 months later, every single one of her friends who'd caused that mess had ruined their own relationships using the very same methods they taught her. My name's Brian. I'm 29, I have a job in software development, and I've never put up with mind games, which is likely why what happened felt like such a betrayal when I saw the truth. I met Zara at a birthday party about 2 years ago, and it was one of those special, effortless connections. We talked for hours about everything that was important. We had the same thoughts on honesty and respect, and for the first 8 months, we had the sort of relationship where we didn't need to test each other because we already trusted each other. Then her friends started showing up more in our conversations and in her decisions, and in the way she suddenly asked about things that had never been problems before. Zara had 3 close friends from college, Monica, Kathy, and Mirabelle. And the first time I met them, I got a bad feeling, but didn't pay attention because I wanted to give them a fair chance. Monica constantly posted on social media about how women need to test their men to prove they're worthy, and she ended 4 relationships in 2 years. Kathy was quieter but more dangerous. She'd make small comments that planted doubt where none was, and I'd later found out she'd convinced her previous boyfriend she was in danger and got him to quit his career to protect her from things that didn't exist. Mirabelle treated relationships like science projects, always looking at attachment styles and evolutionary psychology, talking about how men lose interest if they don't chase, and she kept spreadsheets checking her ex-boyfriend's behaviors on color-coded charts. When you love someone, you want to trust their choices about people they've known for years, so I told myself they couldn't be as bad as my gut feeling said. The first big warning came about 10 months into our relationship, when Zara's parents invited us for Sunday dinner. I brought flowers and wine, we had a wonderful meal, and everything was fine until Zara mentioned her 3 friends would stop by for dessert. Her sister, Sophia, shot Zara a look I couldn't understand, but I just smiled. The moment Monica, Kathy, and Mirabelle walked in, the room changed completely. Monica asked how much money I made, which even Zara's father seemed uncomfortable with, and when I kindly deflected, she pushed harder about salary ranges because seemingly Zara was used to a particular lifestyle, which wasn't even true. Kathy kept talking about her friend's boyfriend who did big gestures like renting helicopters for anniversaries, making clear comments about how some guys just know how to show love while looking at me like I was not good enough. Mirabelle asked about my attachment style, and when I said I didn't think in those ways, she quickly labeled me as avoidant, even though we had just met. Zara's parents looked uncomfortable. Her dad changed the subject a lot, and Sophia went upstairs, but Zara sat there nodding along like this was okay. Later, Sophia pulled me aside and said something I should have paid attention to. She told me her sister's friends had sabotaged every other relationship by convincing her that men need to constantly prove themselves, and I should know they were probably already changing her. I laughed it off, thinking she was overreacting. Watch this entire video to the end to understand why you should never ignore these red flags. The full story has crucial lessons for everyone.
Over the next few weeks, I noticed changes. Laya would cancel plans without explanations. She'd get weird about me talking to female coworkers, even though jealousy had never been her thing. She'd ask bizarre hypotheticals about whether I'd quit my job immediately if she needed me to, and these felt less like questions and more like tests with right and wrong answers. When I asked where this was coming from, she'd say her friends told her it was normal to need reassurance, and every time she mentioned them, I felt that knot in my stomach tighten. Then came the evening that made everything click. We planned a quiet night at her apartment, and I showed up with Thai food to find her on the couch staring at her phone looking stressed. Throughout dinner, she kept glancing at it, and at one point it buzzed, and I caught a message from Nova that said something about not backing down. She started this conversation about whether we were really on the same page, using phrases that didn't sound like her, talking about needing someone who would fight for her, even though I'd supported her through everything that mattered. I asked what specifically she needed, and she couldn't give a straight answer, just kept circling back to vague ideas about passion and effort that sounded copied from Instagram. Her phone rang. She ignored it. I saw it was Tessa calling, and I understood this wasn't about us. This was about whatever script her friends had given her. I told her I needed to go home, and she got upset, asking why I wasn't fighting right now, which felt like confirmation this was a test I didn't know I was taking. I left feeling like the woman I knew was being replaced by someone following instructions. The next morning, she sent an apology, saying she'd been stressed, and I wanted to believe her, but then I was scrolling through my phone and saw an old voice message from Nova in a group chat from weeks ago that I'd never clicked on. I played it and heard Nova's voice crystal clear, saying, "You need to test him, make him chase you. If he doesn't fight for it, then he was never really yours." And I could hear Tessa and Belle agreeing in the background about how every man needs to be tested. I sat there listening on repeat, feeling like I'd been hit in the chest, because suddenly everything made sense. The jealousy, the hypotheticals, the conversation where she'd been waiting for specific reactions. These three women had decided my relationship needed stress testing, and Laya had agreed to it. I called Mara, and she confirmed her sister's friends had been doing this for years, and Laya couldn't see it anymore. She genuinely thought this was what protecting yourself looked like. I didn't confront Yayla immediately, but I started watching the pattern. She'd text her friends before making decisions about us. She'd quote them in arguments. She'd second-guess her own feelings if they didn't match what the group thought. I realized I wasn't just dating Laya, I was dating a committee, and that committee had decided I needed to prove myself in ways that had nothing to do with actual love. I tried one honest conversation, asking if we were okay or if her friends were convincing her we weren't, and she got defensive immediately, said I was being paranoid, and when I mentioned the voice message, she went pale but tried to spin it as them being protective. That's when I knew this couldn't be fixed, because she'd chosen their version of reality over ours.
So I chose a path. I wasn't going to go along anymore. I wasn't going to do tricks or chase someone who was running away as part of a plan. Our 1-year anniversary was approaching in 2 weeks, and I had a thought that's when they'd make their major move. I booked a table at her favorite Italian restaurant for our anniversary, the same spot where we'd had our 3rd date, and where she'd told me she could see a future with me. And part of me wished maybe being back there would wake her out of whatever spell her friends had put her in. I arrived 15 minutes early, secured us a corner table with candles, ordered a bottle of wine, and when she walked in, I right away knew something was wrong because she had that anxious look, and her phone was already in her hand. She sat down, but after 5 minutes, she checked her phone 3 times, not even trying to hide it, just looking down at the screen like she was waiting for directions. I tried ordinary conversation, asked about her week, mentioned something amusing from work, but she was hardly listening, giving one-word answers while her thumb rested over her screen. The waiter came and she didn't even see the menu, just ordered the first thing she noticed, which was totally unlike her because she usually spent a long time deciding. Her phone buzzed, she right away picked it up, read something, and I saw her face shift, saw her take a deep breath like she was getting ready for something, and I knew this was the moment. She put her phone face down, but kept her hand close to it, and then she started this speech that sounded completely practiced, talking about how she'd been thinking about our relationship and whether we were really right for each other. The words coming out of her mouth didn't sound like her. She was using sayings like, "We've grown apart, and I need someone who fights for me, and I don't feel the passion anymore." And I sat there, listening, because I knew every single one of those lines from the social media posts her friends always shared. She continued, talking about needing space to understand what she wanted, how maybe we'd moved too fast, how she wasn't sure I was as committed as she was. And the whole time she kept looking at her phone, like she was checking if she'd said the correct things. I didn't stop her, didn't argue, just watched this person I'd loved transform into a puppet, saying words someone else had written. When she finally stopped talking, she looked at me with this hopeful expression, like she was waiting for me to get scared or beg or fall apart. And I realized this was the entire point. This was the test her friends had created, and she was carrying it out exactly as planned. Her phone buzzed again. She couldn't stop herself. She glanced at it, and I saw enough of the screen to catch Monica's name and the words, "Stay strong, don't give in." And something in me just went totally calm.
I looked at her, sitting there, waiting for my response, and I asked one easy question. I said, "Who told you to say all of this?" And I watched the blood drain from her face. She started stuttering that nobody told her anything, that these were her own ideas. But her hand was shaking, and her eyes kept flicking to that phone, and we both knew she was not telling the truth. Don't click away now. See how this shocking confrontation ends. The final moments reveal the most important lesson about self-respect.
I didn't speak loudly, didn't get emotional, just told her, if you want to leave, then leave. I'm not going to beg or chase or play whatever trick your friends convinced you was necessary. She looked truly shocked, like the script in her head had said I would react in a total other way. And she started changing her story right away, saying she didn't actually want to break up, she just wanted to see if I cared enough to fight for us. I asked her why she would need to test whether I cared when I'd proven it to her every single day for a year, and she didn't have an answer for that. Her phone started buzzing over and over, messages making the screen bright, probably her friends panicking because this wasn't going as planned. She reached for it, and I just stood up, took out my wallet, and put enough cash on the table to pay for the bill and tip. She asked where I was going, and I told her, I'm going home. I'm not interested in being tested like some kind of science experiment. When you decide to trust your own feelings instead of your friends' opinions, you know where to find me. I walked out of that restaurant and didn't look back. Didn't wait to see if she'd come after me. Didn't give her the dramatic moment she'd been coached to expect. And the whole drive home, I felt this weird mix of sadness and relief, because I finally understood the relationship had been over since the moment she'd chosen to listen to them instead of herself. My phone started ringing non-stop before I even got home. Texts from her asking where I went, saying we needed to talk, that she'd made a mistake, that she didn't want any of it. I didn't respond because what was there to say? She'd actually scripted our breakup based on her friend's advice and expected me to act my role in their little drama. The texts got more wild as the night went on. She was clearly panicking because the test hadn't worked the way it was meant to. I was supposed to plead, and she was supposed to feel powerful and wanted. But instead, I just left, and now she was facing the consequences. Around midnight, my phone rang, and it was Sophia. She sounded tired and frustrated when she told me she'd just spent 2 hours with her sister, who'd finally said the whole thing had been planned by Monica, Kathy, and Mirabelle, down to the exact words she was supposed to say. They'd convinced Zara this was the only way to know if I really loved her, that men need to be pushed to show their true feelings, that if I didn't fight through the fake breakup, that I was never truly serious about her anyway. Sophia said Zara was destroyed because she really believed her friends were helping her, that they'd explained it as protecting her from getting hurt, and now she couldn't understand why I just walked away. Sophia asked if I was planning to talk to her, and I said, honestly, I didn't know, because how do you come back from someone testing your love like it's a game show? How do you trust someone who thought their friends' manipulation tactics were more important than the relationship you'd actually built together? I went to bed that night feeling hollower than expected, not because I doubted my decision, but because I was grieving what we'd had before her friends got involved, before every talk became a potential test, before I had to wonder if her words were actually hers or just lines they'd given her. The next morning, I woke up to 47 unread messages from Zara, each one more urgent than the last, and I finally responded with one text saying I needed space and time to see if this was something I could move past. She right away started calling, and I didn't answer because I knew if I heard her voice, I might weaken, might let her explain, might get sucked back into a situation where I'd always be wondering if she was listening to me or to them. Days turned into weeks, and the messages kept coming, apologies and explanations and vows that she'd cut off her friends, but I couldn't forget the image of her sitting across from me at that restaurant, reading instructions off her phone while pretending to break my heart. Stay until the very end to hear how karma unfolded for everyone involved. You won't believe the final update. 2 months after that restaurant mess, I was beginning to feel like myself again. Going to the gym regularly, focusing on work, and I'd made peace with the fact that sometimes loving someone isn't enough if they can't think for themselves. I'd blocked Zara after the 100th apology text because I needed to actually move forward, and the silence was good for me. Then Sophia called, asking if we could meet for coffee because she had updates, and something in her tone told me this would be worth hearing. We met at a place near her apartment, and she looked almost entertained when she sat down, and she started by telling me that all 3 of her sister's friends had totally destroyed their own relationships in the past 2 months, using the exact same tactics they taught Zara. Monica apparently started dating some guy from her gym and immediately went full control mode. Within 2 weeks, she was asking for his phone passwords and wanting to check his location history. The guy gave her access thinking it would make her happy, but that just made it worse because then Monica started looking closely at every single text message and questioning why he'd taken 15 minutes to respond to his mom or why he'd been at the grocery store for 45 minutes instead of 30. She created these complicated loyalty tests, like having her friend text him pretending to be interested to see if he'd respond, or telling him she was going out of town, then showing up at his apartment to find him doing something wrong. The guy lasted exactly 3 weeks before he told her he felt like he was being watched and blocked her on everything. Now Monica was all over social media, posting long complaints about how modern men can't handle a woman who knows her worth, completely not seeing that her standards were actually just paranoia with an Instagram filter on it. Kathy's situation was even messier because she'd turned her toxicity into a full public problem. She'd met someone at a work conference, some accountant who seemed genuinely into her, and within a month, she'd convinced herself he was cheating with no evidence. She started showing up at his apartment without warning at random times, claiming she just happened to be in the neighborhood at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. She'd go through his trash looking for receipts that might show he'd been somewhere with someone else. She accused him of having feelings for a female coworker based on nothing but the fact that the woman had liked one of his Facebook posts from 3 years ago. The guy tried to be understanding at first, but Kathy kept making it worse. She started asking mutual friends to spy on him, to report back if they saw him talking to any women, to essentially build a surveillance network around this man who'd done nothing wrong. Her friends started walking away because they realized how crazy it had gotten. And the last thing came when Kathy demanded he quit his job because there were too many women in his office. He told her she needed professional help, not a relationship, and walked away. The worst part was Kathy immediately started telling everyone he'd been gaslighting her, that he'd been manipulative and emotionally abusive, and watching her change history in real time to avoid accountability was upsetting. But Mirabelle's karma was the most fitting because she'd literally tried to run the exact same script she'd written for Zara, word for word. She'd been dating this guy for about 2 months. Things seemed good, and she decided it was time to test whether he was really in it. She took him to a nice restaurant, and halfway through dinner, she launched into this rehearsed speech about how she'd been thinking about their relationship and wasn't sure he was fighting for her enough. She used the same phrases, the same dramatic pauses, probably the same way of speaking she'd coached Zara to use. The guy just looked at her, didn't get emotional, didn't argue, and said, "Okay, if that's how you feel, then I respect your decision. I hope you find what you're looking for." Then he paid for his half of the meal and left. Mirabelle sat there completely shocked because the script in her head said he was supposed to panic, supposed to beg, supposed to prove he couldn't live without her. She waited for the craving texts and calls that never came. She tried messaging him the next day and realized he'd blocked her number. She tried social media and found out he'd blocked her there, too. Here's where it gets more interesting. Mirabelle had been so confident this test would work that she'd told several people in their friend group about her plan beforehand, explaining her whole theory about how men need to chase and how this would show his true feelings. So when it failed and he just walked away, everyone knew she purposely tried to manipulate him and it had failed in her face. The story went through their social circle fast because it was such a perfect example of toxic dating advice meeting reality. People started questioning all of Mirabelle's relationship theories, wondering how many other couples she'd sabotaged with her psychology experiments. And Mirabelle went from being seen as the wise friend who understood men to being seen as the manipulative one who played games. The 3 of them started fighting each other after their individual disasters, which was going to happen because their entire friendship was built on shared toxicity. Monica blamed Mirabelle for giving her the advice about constant testing, saying if she just trusted her gut instead of following Mirabelle's evolutionary psychology nonsense, she'd still have a boyfriend. Kathy accused Monica of being too forceful with the loyalty tests, claiming her own approach of strategic doubt was more complex and Monica had just done it wrong.
Mirabelle insisted both of them had misunderstood her methods, that they'd taken her carefully researched strategies and turned them into simple instruments. They had this massive fight in a group chat that somehow got screenshotted and shared, where they were basically arguing about whose manipulation tactics were the most correct, while completely missing the point that maybe the problem was manipulation itself. Their friendship group fell apart within weeks. They stopped talking to each other, started posting about each other on social media, and the whole thing was just unfortunate because they'd been so convinced they had relationships figured out, and now they were all alone, having pushed away everyone who'd cared about them. Meanwhile, Zara had lost all 3 of her closest friends and was apparently going through a painful realization that every relationship problem she'd ever had could be linked back to their advice. Sophia said her sister had started going to therapy and was slowly understanding that healthy relationships aren't supposed to feel like psychological warfare. She tried reaching out to apologize to me a few times, but kept stopping herself because what do you even say? How do you apologize for choosing manipulation tactics over someone who actually loved you? I told Sophia I appreciated the update, but I genuinely moved on, and Zara needed to do the same. I learned something important through all of this, that my worth wasn't something that needed to be proven through tests or games or jumping through hoops someone else had set up. Real love doesn't require you to chase someone who's purposely running away, and the healthiest thing I'd ever done was walk out of that restaurant instead of playing along with their script. The weeks turned into months, and I genuinely started liking my life again. I reconnected with friends I'd been ignoring, took on new projects at work that excited me, started dating casually without pressure, and I realized how much effort I'd been spending trying to figure out Zara's behavior and guess her friend's next move. I ran into Zara once at a coffee shop about 5 months after everything ended, and she looked tired, smaller somehow, and she gave me this sad smile, like she wanted to talk but knew she'd lost that chance. I nodded politely and kept walking because there was nothing left to say. She'd made her choices and I'd made mine, and sometimes people don't get second chances because the first chance showed everything you needed to know. Looking back now, I can honestly say that breakup was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Not because I didn't love her, I absolutely did, but because it taught me that I'd rather be alone than be with someone who treats love like a game where you have to constantly prove yourself worthy. The worst part wasn't even the breakup itself. It was the realization that I'd been dating a committee instead of a person, that every decision and conversation had been filtered through 3 toxic people who saw relationships as power struggles instead of partnerships. 6 months later, I'm genuinely happy, genuinely at peace, and genuinely thankful that I walked away when I did, because staying would have meant accepting that being tested was just part of love, and I know now that real love doesn't work that way. The right person won't need her friends to script your breakup to see if you'll fight for her. She'll just know because you show her every single day through actions that actually matter. And anyone who tells you otherwise is probably selling you manipulation tactics disguised as relationship advice. What do you think about this story? Let me know in the comments. Drop a like and don't forget to subscribe for more true life stories on Reddit Stories Rewind. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts below. For more powerful lessons on self-respect and relationships, make sure you've subscribed, liked this video, and shared it with someone who needs to hear it.